Hey cousins, it's y'all favorite insurance cousin. And the question is, so let's get into it. Excluded driver. Should I exclude drivers in my household? Here's the thing with excluded drivers. If you exclude a driver, just know that there's absolutely no coverage, not in the event of an accident or anything like that. So if you're all coming back from an event, an outing, and you're like, I'm exhausted, I just can't drive, you drive and you've excluded that person and they get into a car accident, it's no coverage and it's no exceptions when you exclude a driver. Insurance is based on the household, and a driver in the household with a bad driving record can make the entire household ineligible. So when you take it upon yourself to exclude a driver, once you do that, it's no coverage. It's none, absolutely none. Not in the event of an emergency, not in the event of a one-time drive or anything like that, because you're telling the carrier they absolutely do not drive my vehicle under no circumstances. Then it comes to where people will ask, should I exclude my spouse? A lot of carriers don't let you exclude your spouse. And I have seen some cases where spouses have been excluded and one may have forgotten. And I'm not talking about to where sometimes in a household, the wife will say, well, he got his own insurance, he got his own car. You guys still have community property because you're married. One. Two, excluding a spouse is not a good idea, especially if something may happen, like I said, and you may need them to drive. I have a case to where a spouse, it's not my case, it was a question that was brought to me. A spouse was excluded. Now, the question was, once they got into the car accident, the wife said, well, I don't remember excluding him and I don't remember signing that papers. A lot of people don't remember. And to the carrier, they're like, we hear that all the time. Well, once the accident happened, it comes down to what was the intent. Why was the driver excluded in the first place? Did he get in? Did he have a terrible driving record? Or did the agent do it just because the agent felt like they didn't want to, mess up the sale or something like that? Those are things that all come into play. But it came down to they were in an accident. The spouse was injured, severely injured. The husband was the driver. He was severely injured. The wife called to make a claim and she finds out that there's no vehicle because she excluded the husband 12 years ago. And here we are now. We have a $50,000 vehicle that's not only totaled, the spouse is injured as well, and the carrier is telling you that there's no coverage. And that comes down to that excluded driver, knowing policy coverage, and not getting policy reviews. And I can't stress that enough. Never ever accept price over coverage because it'll fail you every time. What was the reason of excluding the driver? Did the spouse have insurance before? Were they trying to save some money? But now this is one of those cases to where price over coverage just may have failed the policyholder because they chose to exclude. But 12 years ago with that carrier, were they allowing spouses to be excluded? And if that's the case, now that we're 12 years later, and if that's not the case, why wasn't that policy updated to reflect the new laws on spouses are not able to be excluded from the policy? So it's a lot of things that can come into play with that, and it can get real tricky when you're excluding drivers. But I will tell you, absolutely do not exclude a driver in your household unless you know they're not going to drive the vehicle, because in the event of a claim, there are no exceptions. Never choose price over coverage because it'll fail you every time. I'll see you guys in the next video, cousins. Bye-bye.